Uh, and you said you also have a book where you talk about this as well?
Yes. Let me
Okay, yeah.
just let me mention to you what I'm going to give to all
Yeah.
of your listeners for free is I have a one-page wealth compass. This is the literal compass that took me
Wow.
from 63 at broke to 69 seven-figure portfolio millionaire status. Okay, and it's I'm going to give it to you people for free. There's no cost or obligation. But let me just show you real quick. This one side are the 9 trail markers. This tells you where you're at right now and how to get to where you want to go to financial freedom. And that's really
Mhm.
important. It's a step-by-step process. And there's so many books out there. When I read them, there's little conflicts even in big gurus, that big name gurus that are out there. It's just you'd be surprised. And I mentioned them in my book. I explain how the other side is the 5 North Star principles. These keep you safe. They're like guardrails, so you don't go off on
Yeah.
the tangent, that kind of thing. And then what happens is every single one of these has a little note by them, and it says a chapter reference. So say you're trying to get out of debt. You go, David, I need more information to just get out of debt in a few sentences here. Well, what you do is this is chapter 4. So you get the book, basically, and this is the ground game. This is the 30,000-foot view, and this is the ground game. Take a right here, take a left at the
Yeah.
stop sign. This is keeping you on track. When you bring these together, you've got a clarity that very few people have.
Mm.
It's a powerful clarity, and I've never seen another book do anything like this. And I tell you, it just came to me through inspiration. And desperation too, maybe. But
Yeah.
when you bring them together, and what I do on top of this, Mike, that really makes it different is, have you ever read a book and then you
Yeah.
got a really good idea from that book and you say, it's going to change my life, I'm going to use this. Then 2 years later, you come across the idea and go, wait a minute, I meant to use that, I forgot about it. Well, let me tell you, I didn't want that to happen with people with this book. So what I did is, I do this, and I say it in the book, every Friday at 3 o'clock, I have on my electronic calendar, 2-minute meeting with my wealth compass. And what I do is I just sit down and I go through this and I read where I'm at, where I'm going next, and I look at my North Star principles and I just make sure I'm on the right track. I remember once I looked at it and I realized I made an impulse purchase the week before. I looked at this and said, oh yeah, I violated the rule. You're supposed to wait 24 hours before you make an impulse purchase to make sure it's real, okay? But that I caught it early. So okay, I maybe blew $100 or whatever it was, but I didn't blow 100,000 because 3 years later I'm still making impulse purchases and they're getting bigger and bigger. So this keeps you reined in to safety and it keeps you on the direct course. And that's really those 2-minute meetings I have every week. I cherish those. Just because you've made the million now, or 2 or 3 million now, you want to keep in this right direction because you can still go off track. And I've seen people with millions go off track and lose it all too. So it's important.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael Yearby, and you're with Unfiltered Conversations, and I'm with Dave. And for me, as I explore Dave, but he is living proof that reinvention has no age limit. After 18 years in one company, he was 63 years old when he suddenly was fired and released. With virtually no savings and 2 years to live on, he decided that he wasn't going to give up. He told himself everything about money, simplified it down to one single page. And in 6 years, quietly became a multimillionaire. He's now author, speaker, helping both 30-year-olds and 60-year-olds, so you're in luck, to climb the financial ladder and not be in panic with his one-page wealth compass. Dave, it is an honor and pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mike. I'm thrilled being here with you today. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Let's get right into it. Dave, uh, I guess before we kind of really dive into the cusp of what you are and what you do, you said, in previous conversations that you failed at money for 40 years. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm an expert at what not to do with money. Like I said, 40 years, I made every mistake in the book. I
Mhm.
don't think I could have made more. And proof of it is when I was fired at 63, we had 2 years where we were scheduled to be broke if we didn't do anything. I mean, if I just kept on going with no job. And the job market was very brutal to me. They were very like, we don't want you. Thank you very much. You're over the hill. Goodbye, buddy. And so that was kind of a wake up call for me. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. That I guess, I think especially like you said, with the job market being so brutal, what do you think about the job market now as AI starts to come in and take an effect, and people are realizing that degrees does not equal a nice paying salary?
Yeah, it just tells me more and more why I wish I had done this in my 30s or even my 50s. But building wealth is so critical because you just don't know what's going to happen. You think you have a secure job, you think everything's going to be fine and perfect. And all of a sudden, one day, the whole world comes up and around and upside down, and it's not what you thought it was. And if you don't have a foundation, a financial foundation, if you've been building one, you're very vulnerable. I was extremely vulnerable. I remember after I got fired and calculated that we only had about 2 years left, I remember the hardest part was driving home, thinking, "How am I going to tell my wife, Mary?" We've been married for 30
Mm,
years at that point, and she did not deserve the mess I just threw our life into. But after a couple of months of dead end job searching, I mean, and employers were telling me, "Hey, the first company that fired you, they did the right thing because you're no value to us either. We don't want you." I realized something that I need to take a risk. And so what I did is I went to work as an independent sales agent on straight commission, no salary, no safety net, no benefits. The first months were brutal. Cold calls, constant rejection, rookie mistakes. I heard more no's in that 2 month period that I can count. But you know what, Mike, after thinking back on that, and I can reflect on it
yeah.
now, I realized that all that resistance I was getting, all those no's I was getting, they were necessary to give me that resistance to build the mental muscles I needed to punch through
Mm,
that dark period of my life. Because 10
yeah.
months after grinding with that situation, I hit an incredible milestone. I was suddenly making more money than my good paying corporate job. And I thought for a moment, we made it. But I realized we didn't make nothing because I was making decent money the whole 40 years. And look where it got me on the verge of financial collapse. I said, I need to learn how to invest. I need to learn how to build wealth. I didn't have
Yeah.
time, though, to waste time with all these investment theories and all these people pitching everything right and left to you. I had to learn it for myself because I had a very
Yeah.
short runway. It was really more like a helicopter pad than a runway. It was so short. So I dove in there. I read 21 books on finance. I listened to 13 podcasts faithfully. Read blogs, newsletters. Every time I got a good idea for that I read about, I put it on a piece of paper, and I kept filling up that paper. Once the paper was full, I had a commitment. I didn't want to go beyond one piece of paper. I want to keep it simple.
Mm,
So what I would do is, if I get a better idea, I take the worst one off and put a better one on, and I kept refining it, and get it to a set it and forget it approach because I had a company to run. I couldn't be, worried about my investments all day. Anyways, after 6 years, I hit what I thought was impossible. From terrified of being broke to a seven-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. Michael, I now know it is never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can
wow.
pull it off starting as late as 63, anybody can with the right direction. I truly believe that.
Man, you kind of mentioned it. Tell me about that moment when you sat in your office and your manager said effectively immediately, that phrase. What was running through your mind seconds before you had to walk out of a job that you was in for 18 years?
To be honest with you, I was kind of numb. I don't know if it all
Oh,
sunk in completely until the next day almost. I just was like, I wasn't expecting it. But I'll be honest with
yeah.
you, be totally frank. I was with that company for 18 years. They were very good to me. I'm not putting them down at all. But I will say this. I should have quit. I should have fired myself, quit 8 years earlier. I just knew it
Mm,
was time, but I didn't have the guts. I mean, I was in my 50s at that point, making very good money. The market isn't really great to people in their 50s and 60s sometimes. And I just was afraid. I didn't have the guts to say, I wish I could have said, hey, you could take this job and you know what? I'm out of here. But I didn't have the guts to do that. I needed
mm,
them to fire me. I needed to be pushed out of the corporate nest. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am so grateful for that. I should send them a gift basket and a thank you card for firing me because they did a gift. I didn't have the guts to do it. And if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I'd probably be in a very bad situation because I never would have learned how to do the investing and building wealth piece of it. So as terrifying as that day was, I look back on it with gratitude, real gratitude.
and you kind of alluded on it. After losing your job, in previous interviews, you spoke about your good friend Corey, uh, that quitting wasn't an option for you, and you even said it here, right? And you said you really had no plan B. So, what gave you the courage to take a commissions only sales job at your age?
Well, I tell you, it was worse than it sounds, if that can be
Yeah.
possible, because I had tried twice, Mike, twice in my 40s to start a company, and I failed
Mm,
miserably. One time it sent me into deep six-figure debt that it took me years to pay off. So this wasn't a casual decision I just made saying, "Oh, let me try being an entrepreneur." No, I already proved to myself that I was a lousy entrepreneur. I failed at it twice. And so it's like, this was not easy, but I had no other option. But you know, one thing that kept me going that made me have some faith is I knew the mistakes I made in my 40s. I was
mhm.
smarter in my at 63 than I was at 43 because I had
Yeah.
made those errors and I was committed. The lessons I learned from that, I was not going to repeat. I was not going to repeat them. And that was a
Mhm.
big help. But let me also say one thing. The same time I was going through this nightmare situation, I heard this true story that I'd like to share briefly because it talks about why this whole thing
Yes,
about
please.
one page compass, what's it all about? Okay. It's at the Max Planck Institute did an experiment. What they did is they placed people in the center of a dense German forest and told them to walk in a straight line to the edge. Now, these were confident, capable people, but when the clouds covered the sun, excuse me, the GPS tracking showed they were starting to go in circles. Some of them were actually ending up right back where they began, but every one of them was absolutely convinced they were walking in a perfectly straight line. That is my life story for 40 years. Working hard, making good money, thinking I was doing the right thing and building wealth, but literally going in circles. And I said to myself, I got to stop this. I don't have time anymore. So I need a compass, but not a metal compass or a plastic compass that people take with them when they're hiking. I needed a one-page compass to keep me focused. So I'm the kind of person, this is terrible. I get distracted easy. A shiny
Mhm.
object, a new tip or whatever, and I'm off to the races the other direction. Well, this one-page compass, it gave me that 30,000-foot view that I needed to stay in the
Yeah.
right direction so I wouldn't get off course. And that really made a huge difference. I can't ever tell you how big a difference that made to me. And it gave me the confidence and understanding I needed to move forward, even despite all the storms I was surrounded by.
Yeah. And this kind of is it was quite funny and then also revealing when you said, you followed like 13, 14 podcasts faithfully. You read and studied over 20 books, right?
Yeah.
And to rebuild your financial repertoire, how did you sit and sift through all that information to find what you needed and decided what principles to use?
Well, that's a good point. When you read 21 books, you start to be able to pick up who's giving you a pitch because they want to sell you something or there's something in it for
Mhm.
them, and who's just giving back. And I got my antennas up really clear on I could tell really. In fact, I even have that in my book, the three conflicts of interest people need to be aware of when it comes to the world of finance, because it'll tell you for 40 years I fell for it. So I started to understand that. And so I started to sift away the books that were just, trying to pitch me something. And I just found the books that people were really giving good advice and they had good track records. And you could see they weren't selling anything. There was no advantage to them giving this information other than they wanted to help. And big names like people like Warren Buffett. Now, he didn't write a book necessarily, but great advice from him. And people like Jack Bogle, who started Vanguard, amazing advice from him. Just so many people that just, and then after a while, the smart people who were giving good advice, they started to sound a lot alike. In other words, a lot of their advice was consistent. It wasn't conflicting with these other people who had conflicts of interest. And so I really learned how to sift through the garbage and pick out the golden nuggets. And that made a big difference. And it gave me confidence now that I was getting the right advice for a change for after 40 years of the wrong advice.
Wow. Wow. And you said you also have a book where you talk about this as well?
Yes. Let me
Okay, yeah.
just let me mention something. What I'm going to give to all
Yeah.
of your listeners for free is I have a one-page wealth compass. This is the literal compass that took me
Wow.
from 63 at broke to 69, seven-figure portfolio millionaire status. Okay, and it's I'm going to give it to you people for free. There's no cost or obligation. But let me just show you real quick. This one side are the 9 trail markers. This tells you where you're at right now and how to get to where you want to go to financial freedom. And that's really
Mhm.
important. It's a step-by-step process. And there's so many books out there. When I read them, there's little conflicts even in big gurus, big name gurus that are out there. It's just you'd be surprised. And I mentioned them in my book. I explain how to. The other side is the 5 North Star principles. These keep you safe. These keep you. They're like guardrails, so you don't go off on
Yeah.
the tangent, that kind of thing. And then what happens is every single one of these has a little note by them, and it says a chapter reference preference. So say trying to get out of debt. You go, well, David, I need more information to just get out of debt in a few sentences here. Well, what you do is this is chapter 4. So you get the book basically, and this is the ground game. This is the 30,000 foot view, and this is the ground game. Take a right here, take a left at the
Yeah.
stop sign. This is keeping you on track. When you bring these together, you've got a clarity that very few people have.
Mm,
It's a powerful clarity, and I've never seen another book do anything like this. And I tell you, it just came to me through inspiration. And
yeah.
desperation too, maybe. But
Yeah.
when you bring them together, and what I do on top of this, Mike, that really makes it different is, have you ever read a book and then you
Yeah.
got a really good idea from that book and you say, it's going to change my life. I'm going to use this. Then 2 years later, you come across the idea and go, wait a minute, I meant to use that. I forgot about it. Well, let me tell you, I didn't want that to happen with people in this book. So what I did is I do this, and I say it in the book, every Friday at 3 o'clock, I have on my electronic calendar, 2-minute meeting with my wealth compass. And what I do is I just sit down and I go through this and I read where I'm at, where I'm going next, and I look at my North Star principles and I just make sure I'm on the right track. I remember once I looked at it and I realized I made an impulse purchase the week before. I looked at this and I says, oh yeah, I violated the rule. You're supposed to wait 24 hours before you make an impulse purchase to make sure it's real, okay? But that
Yeah.
caught it early. So okay, I blew $100 or whatever it was, but I didn't blow 100,000 because 3 years later I'm still making impulse purchases and they're getting bigger and bigger. So this keeps
Yeah.
you reined in to safety, and it keeps you on the direct course. And that's really those 2-minute meetings I have every week. I cherish those. Just because you've made the million now, or 2 or 3 million now, you want to keep in this right direction because you can still go off track. And I've seen people with
Yes.
millions go off track and lose it all too. So it's important.
You know, what I guess when it comes to like, and thank you so much for sharing your book as well as
Sure.
the 30,000 uh, thousand
Compass.
view of the one pager. When it comes to finance, why is it that I would say most people see finances like it's either one of the two extremes. They see it as flashy Lamborghinis, Ferraris, like buying, going on expensive trips, or two, they see it as an old, boring, you know, uh, penny pitcher, saving money, being very, very frugal. I guess why is that diaspora when it comes to financial saving or just having finance so wide and people only see the two extremes?
Yeah, I think because well, that's why I wrote the book. Let me tell you what. When I read those 21 books, I'll be honest with you, like a lot of them are boring. I mean, I forced myself through them because I was desperate, okay? But a lot of them have charts and graphs and spreadsheets and all this garbage that no one really, unless you're really into finance, is not really a thing. And I says, I'm going to write this book differently. So I wrote my book in story form, true stories of real people, myself and others, who failed and who succeeded and why they did it. And it's funny, when you give somebody an example of someone who failed and then someone who succeeded and the real story behind what they did, and then you give
Mhm.
them the principles, it's like a light bulb goes off of their head. I get it now. And people they're not feeling like they're reading a finance book anymore. It's like they're reading an interesting storybook, but they're learning a lot about finance. And so you can get away from that really boring stuff. Let me just share with you, because I think this is an
Yeah.
important point, what we're talking about. I read every review I get on my book, and this is a review I got from a guy. He's not a financial personal. He's a clinical psychologist with 25 years experience. So he was facing
Mhm.
his own career crisis, and he said the one-page wealth compass gave him the exact financial hope and practical steps he needed. But here's the important part of the quote that I love. He says, I couldn't put the book down. And that's my
Oh,
point of it. It's not like a boring financial book. It's written in a
mhm.
stories forms, and people. I get stats from Amazon and on the ebooks. People are reading to the end. It's amazing. A lot of times in an ebook, you read a chapter or two and you move on to the next book.
Yeah.
They're reading to the end because it just captivates your interest because it's true things that are really happening to people, and you'll cry tears of joy and tears of sadness throughout the book because some things are just heartbreaking and other things are just really joyful. And so it's just that was really important to me to not make it another boring financial book, because you're right. People either see it as flashy type thing, which isn't really smart, overly flashy, or it's like, oh, doom and gloom, and I got to live like a monk. And there's a good
Yeah.
middle ground. There's a good middle ground that you can live a decent life and build decent wealth and any income, by the way, not just the wealthy people either.
Yeah. I love how your system is basically in a one pager. What are like two, three components on that page that change everything for everyone that I guess looks and views it?
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that's a big one that's on here that I talk about in the book too is expenses. Okay. People are paying like tiny termite like expenses, and they don't even realize what's happening until their foundation of their portfolio crumbles and it's kind of too late.
Mm,
Let me give you an example to make it practical for you. Say you've got two people, A and B. They're both young, starting out in their career. Maybe they're 25. They're going to work till they're 65. Just pretend like example. And they both decide to put a modest $25 a week away for investing to build wealth. Okay. Person A uses a low-cost index fund with a 0.03% management fee, and we'll talk about that in a second. Person B goes to an advisor who charges a full 1%, and he puts them in an active fund with a 5.75 upfront load and a 0.66% ongoing management fee. Okay, now let's follow them for 40 years. Fast forward, same contributions exactly to the penny, same market returns. Okay, but the difference is person A on this modest $25 a week has a $1 million portfolio. Person B
mm,
has a $570,000 portfolio. That's a $430,000 difference. That wasn't because of market returns. That wasn't because of bad timing. That wasn't because of lousy investments. That was simply because these tiny termite-sized fees eating away quietly, day by day, week by week, year by year, decade by decade, and that compounding effect is huge. And here's the thing about it. We assume they never got a raise. If we factored in normal raises, that $1,000 difference gap would even be bigger. It could be as much as $1 million. But here's the biggest tragedy, Mike, of the whole thing. Person B probably feels like, hey, I got excellent service from my advisor. He's a nice guy. Went golfing with him once. He knows my kids' names. Little did he realize he did the equivalent of funding someone else's retirement with half of his own money. I'm embarrassed to admit this to you, but for 40 years,
mm.
I never questioned fees. I just thought, those are the rules of the game. That's what everyone has to play. Once I made my compass, I realized the fees we don't question can cost us the most. In person B's example, it cost him $430,000. I'm sorry, that's just too much money to pay in these little tiny appearing fees. And that's a big issue right there.
Wow. Wow, man. I never knew that fees was something that, and like, that's amazing because for me, I always thought I had to pay to play, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's right.
And then as for certain things, I was like, I'd rather learn it on my own because I didn't want to pay. But I was, man, that's pretty amazing. And how
Can
you broke it down, there's like a light bulb came on.
Yeah.
So,
Well, can I share with you too?
yes.
What happened was during that, let me give you the result of that 6 year period. Okay. What I basically did
Mhm.
is I doubled my portfolio 3 times during that 6 year period. Now, a lot of people in the world of
Jeez.
finances, David, that's impossible. The market didn't increase that much. You're either lying or delusional. Well, let me assure you, I wasn't day trading. I wasn't chasing crypto. I wasn't trying to time the market. I was actually doing something so simple it put you to sleep. What I was able to do was go with an approach. And the crazy thing about this approach is when the market was down, Michael, I was thrilled. When other people were selling and panicking, I was buying more shares at discount prices. My only regret was the market wasn't down more during that 6 year period because I'd even done better. But here's the thing that really surprised me was the math, okay? There's a thing in finance called the rule of 72. What it says is if you're getting a 10% return on your money, say, your money will double every 7.2 years or roughly every 86
Yeah.
months. Once I got my compass, my first double occurred in just 30 months. Second, 13 months. Third, 29 months for an average of 24 months, way less than half the 86-month expected time period. But the secret
Mm,
wasn't the returns. I was doing 3 things. It took me 40 years that I didn't know about. Now I found out about with the compass. Number one, I was paying myself first in a way, okay? I was taking a slice of my income before I did anything, and I was putting it aside in savings, okay? The second thing I was doing is I was taking that money and investing it in the right kind of investments. And I alluded to this earlier. I was investing in low-cost index funds. I only have 2 funds. That's how uncomplicated my investment policy is. 2 funds. I have one, which is an index fund, and it owns a little piece of stock of every public nothing. And if that happens, we got bigger problems than money, okay? So I feel
yeah.
like I can sleep really good at night. And the third thing I was doing was I was using market volatility to work for me instead of against me. So many people, they let their emotions dictate their investments. That's why they buy high and sell low, which is the opposite of what you want to do, is what I did for 40 years. Okay. Once you understand the system and it's simply explained to you, you don't have to do that anymore. And it's crazy thing
Mhm.
is, Mike, a lot of people, like if you were to go to a grocery store, department store, excuse me, and you saw a sign that says 50% off sale, would you go up to the clerk and say, hey, I don't want no 50% off. I want to pay full retail. When's that thing going back to full retail? That's what I want to buy. You wouldn't do that. You'd be crazy. But they do that every day with the stock market. If the market crashes to 50%, they're panicked. They want to get out of the market. Oh my gosh. That's when you want to buy, when it's low like that. You don't want to buy when it's high. It's like the department store.
Mm.
It's funny. 200 years of history of the stock market. And every single time the market has declined, it has not only come back and fully recovered, it has gone on to new heights. 200 years of data tells me I can sleep good at night. My investments are going
Yeah.
to be just fine because I'm on a long-term play here and it's working beautifully.
Wow. You kind of described, I guess, before where you said that moment, that 10-month moment where things change. You went from nothing. You was grinding with cold calls and trying to get that commission check. I said, what did it feel like? Did it feel, and you kind of alluded to it, like it kind of felt like relief, but you knew you wasn't out of the woods yet. What did it psychologically tell you about yourself when you started that grind?
Like when I started, before I started making good money, or before or after?
I'll say at that cusp of, like, at 10 months, you started, you like, oh my goodness, I'm starting to get sales. You built those calluses
Yeah.
with those cold calls for 10 months. And now you're like, oh man, okay, I'm starting to make sales. I'm starting to make some money. What did it do to you? Like, what did it confirm in you?
It confirmed that I was on the right path because I had a compass not just for building wealth, Mike. I had a compass also for my agency to build that because I did
Mm,
the same principle. I read books on that and I put the best ideas on one sheet of paper and I did review that every week too. So I got two compasses going here, but they're both relating to money. One is investing it and building wealth. One of it is earning so I could feed my investment machine. And together they just work beautifully. Okay. But I knew that I needed to do something because if I didn't do something with the wealth building piece of it, just because I was making good money, because I made good money most of my 40 years, I knew that money would seep through all these leaks like expenses and other things. And I'd be in the same boat I was in at 73. And that's, boy, that would be a real nightmare if that was the case. But a lot of people, they believe this lie. And the lie is that, oh, David, I don't make enough money. If I made as much money as you made, or if I made as much money as so and so made, I could invest, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I don't have that kind of money. I can't do that investment. Lie. Let me explain why it's a lie. Okay. NBA, National Basketball Association players, this is average player makes over $10 million a year. I didn't say $10
mm,
million in their career. I said in 1 year. Okay. And yet, after 5 years of retirement, 60% of them are broke, according to the Netflix documentary Broke. And the NFL is worse. After only 2 years of retirement, 78% of them are either bankrupt or in serious financial stress, and that's according to Sports Illustrated. Now, compare that to Dale Schroeder, a basketball-loving carpenter who made an average to below average income his entire life, but he chose to live on less than he earned and invest difference wisely. He ended up with a $3 million portfolio. Like, that's more than the average, most of the NBA and the NFL players making their tens of millions of dollars ended up with. And he did it. And he didn't make excuses. He didn't say I don't make enough money. He worked with what he had, and he used correct principles to do what he had. What I found when I built this compass was making money is different than building wealth. Those pro athletes,
mm,
they are masters at making money. How many of your buddies make over $10 million a year? I don't have many of those buddies that make over $10 million a year. They were pros at making money. I mean, but they were, most of them, not all of them. A lot of pro athletes are very good with business, but most of them, not more than half, they are terrible with building wealth. Now, Dale Schroeder, on the other hand, he was pretty bad at making money. I mean, he made an average to below average income all his life, but he was a master at building wealth. And once I
yeah,
realized that, when I made my compass, I says, okay, now I feel like I'm going to be safe. Now I'm not going
yeah,
to squander this money. I'm not going to do bad investments and all that kind of thing. All expenses leak me out of there. I'm going to build wealth. And I tell you, I accomplished more in that 6-year period in terms of building wealth they did the previous 40 years. And this is what I'm saying here is clear direction beats misdirected speed every time. I was spinning my
Yeah.
wheels for 40 years, making good money and doing the wrong stuff. But in 6 years, once I got the direction, it changed everything for me. And that's why I'm on this
Yeah.
mission to share this with as many people as I can share it with.
No, I got it. It's like you found the well and you're
Yeah.
like, hey guys, the water's over here. Come on, it's nice and cool.
Yeah.
Let's drink. You know, and I love that. I love that. Me and my wife, we talk about finances a lot, and I'm very blessed to have a partner who's financial savvy. My wife is
Okay.
not, the extreme frugal, but she is very, very, I guess she's practical and a lot of common sense when it comes to finances. We
Okay.
watch our finances quite heavily,
Good.
to make sure we're doing the right investments. And I was wondering in your estimation, it was always said to me that if you're building wealth like you was talking about, you have to choose a good partner. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I do. If I didn't have my wife, I got so lucky with with my wife. I
Mm,
tell you, I can't tell you how lucky I am. And you're right. It's a partnership. And let me make one suggestion to you and your wife. Okay, when we hang up here today, please go
mm,
to onepagewealthcompass.com/free. Remember the slash free part, okay? And just download it. I mean, she's already very savvy financially, but I mean, just have a take a look at this because I tell you, we can all learn something, from somebody and that kind of thing, and it doesn't cost a penny. But I really, when you're both on the same page, and if you were to have that 2 minute meeting together every week, just 2 minutes
mm.
with a compass, oh my gosh, you would be like laser focused as a couple too. I'm not saying you're not now, but I'm just saying, it'd even be
Yeah,
sharper
yeah, yeah.
laser
No,
focused.
yeah,
So, anyways, go ahead.
yeah. So people can be skeptical, right? Of like, of like, I would say I won't even call you an overnight millionaire or a person. It's just like when I hear that, I get very excited. Like when you say, man, I became a millionaire. I approached seven figures in a 6 year period. And you talk about the grind. I will say, do you have to have the calluses to break through to the next, I guess, I would say season of your life? Or can I guess, use the wisdom or use your experience as wisdom so that I don't have to go through what you have gone through?
You just said it. If you can use the wisdom of other people, that's a much better investment of your time and money than trial by error like I did for 40 years until I finally got serious about this. And you talk about calluses. My wife and I were at Costco last night, and I went ahead and I just got this impression. I've kept a journal, private journal for myself since I was 25 years old. And something told me to go back in my journal because I could do it on my phone because it's on a Google Doc and look up when I got fired what happened those couple months after I got fired. And I came across this entry I'd like to just share with you because it addresses what you just said about the calluses and stuff like that. And I'll just this is 3 months into my job. Now, at 3 months of my job, my company, I should say, I wasn't making money. I was working like crazy and maybe getting a commission check at $200 or $400. It was like ridiculous, but I just felt like I was on the right path or something. And this is the journal entry 3 months when I was in the darkest period, pretty much. It says, a thought came to me recently. If I had the ability to press a button and win the $100 million lottery, would I do it? I feel with all sincerity my answer is no. The reason I say that is that would be the easy way out. I know by struggling to build my company, I am growing in ways I really need to. I am grateful
Mhm.
for this opportunity. My failures are helping me gain the strength and wisdom I need to succeed. And I didn't write that for anyone to hear. My journal is very private. I don't share it with anybody. But that one, I just says, I gotta mention this to people because if you're going through a really tough time right now, you're building, like you say, the calluses or the strength you need so I'm stronger than I've ever been, I believe. And if I hadn't gotten fired and I hadn't gone through that, I don't think I'd be in the position I am today. I know I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today. I know it.
What do you think, I guess, that we're doing wrong as young people? And when I say young people, I'm talking about like, or just I'll say the country in general when it comes to finances and understanding what money is, uh, and why is it so difficult for us to build wealth?
I really believe it's just not a priority for a lot of people. Oh, they want the money. That's a priority. Everyone wants the money, but they don't want to do what it's they don't want to do what it takes. And it doesn't take a lot. That's a shocking thing. Let me tell you, a total time now I spend in my investment portfolio, about 5 minutes a month. And let me explain how I do that. Okay. I pay myself
Jeez.
once a month with my company, once a month. Okay. And what happens when I get my paycheck landed in my checking account, I take that portion that I'm going to invest off the top and I transfer it to my investment account on my computer. Put portion of it in the U.S. market, every publicly traded stock, and a portion of it in the international market. I click out, and that's it. That's my whole investment time, the whole month. Okay, I only the reason I have to spend 5 minutes is because my paycheck is different every month. It's because I'm in sales and that kind of thing. But if you have like a standard paycheck, like you're on a salary or whatever, you can automate that. So you don't even have to spend the 5 minutes a month. You could just automate it and it'll make the transfer for you as soon as it hits your account. So what I'm saying is people are thinking it's harder than it is. This is not difficult. And Wall Street wants you to think it's complicated. So you need them so they can get their fees out of you. You know, it's funny. The truth
Uh,
is simplicity is for winners. Complexity is for victims. And Wall Street
uh,
wants victims, and they want to make this complicated. It's not. I cracked the code on complication. It's simple. I can do this. You can do this. I promise. I'm not that smart of a person. I always tell people, my wife, when she was young, they did an IQ test for her. She was 1 point shy of being a genius. I, on the other hand, failed the second grade. I've always said, when you put us together, we make one average intelligent person together. So I am not a smart person. I tell you that right now. If I could do this, because I had to dumb it down to make it super simple for me. Anybody can do this.
yeah.
I promise you. It's not complicated.
You know, you talk in your title, or talking about like stirring both the 25 and the 55-year-olds up, and your story and your status, it grabs us with your attention. I would say, like, in you know, what is it about just having that one page compass that you think that will change our entire trajectory moving forward?
Because it gives you that clear direction that most people don't have today. They're hearing stuff, they don't know what they're talking about. You go on the news channels, the financial news cables, they're
Mhm.
crazy, those people on that. I love watching them just for entertainment purpose. I would never take any advice.
Yeah.
One day the market was crashing and they're doom and gloom, get out of the market. And I'm laughing. And my wife says, honey, why are you laughing? That's serious. We got money in the market. It's crashing. I goes, those people, they don't know what the heck they're just guessing like everybody else is. I love Warren Buffett's quote. He says the following: casting. The forecast tell you a lot about the forecaster, but nothing about the market. And that is so true. It tells you about the
Mm,
market. No one knows what's going to do. Even Warren Buffett doesn't know what's going to happen. So why should I or this guy on cable news know what's going to happen? Get a system that works. Get a system that's safe and it's stable and it's consistent, and you will build wealth faster than all that other garbage talk on the TV and all that kind of thing. And that's really it is. It's not complicated. It really is. And when you get it down to one page and you can read that one page for 2 minutes, it's like, wow, I can do this. And I know exactly where I'm at, and I know exactly my next step
nice.
now. And that's the thing. Everyone, so what does everyone should do? Well, it's not everyone should do the same thing. It's where you are on the 9 steps is where you should start. And that's what it is. It's
Mhm.
not like there's one thing everyone should be doing at the moment. It's wherever you are on your path.
You know, you often emphasize, especially just recently on this show, having a mindset of gratitude and humility. If you were to sum up your message in just one single line, what would it be?
I think it would be the one I mentioned earlier because it's the most profound, I think, and powerful. Clear direction beats misdirected speed every time. If people can
Mm,
just get clear direction, they will be so much better off. And clear direction. There are people out there with. We talked about this earlier. All kinds of conflicts. Okay, and people are buying that because they don't know. Well, the guy has a bunch of initials after his name. He must be smart, or he's a fiduciary. Oh my gosh, he's a fiduciary. We gotta trust him. You know who else is a fiduciary, Michael?
yeah,
Attorneys. Now, have you ever heard of a bad attorney before? Maybe there's a couple of them out there.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
they buy these labels and they just go in and get sucked in. And then 20 years, 30 or 40 years later, they're going, why didn't it work out? I did everything they said and it didn't work out. Well, because they all made good money on you and
Yeah,
people like you, like me. For 40 years, they made great money on me, I tell you.
amazing. And my last question for you is, how would you like to see your story, your book, your compass utilized
Well, let
moving
me,
forward?
sure. Well, let me just address something to your listeners, okay, who feel that quiet desperation I felt when I was 63. I say, this is not your ending. It's just your beginning. You just
Mm,
need clarity. And my mission is to share this one page of clarity with people so they don't have to go through the terror I did at 63. Just go to
mm,
onepagewealthcompass.com/free and download your free one page compass. It strips away the noise, the confusion. It gives you the set it and forget it direction. And what the book does, it's the final piece. What that is, it gives you the level of clarity that few people ever achieve. So I would
mm.
just encourage people, it's free. I'm not here to make any money off you. I'm not here to sell you nothing. Just go to onepagewealthcompass.com/free and download your own wealth page compass and see for yourself. Don't trust me. Don't trust me. Don't trust anybody. Look for yourself and see what it makes to you, makes sense to you. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Okay, man. Is there anything else that you wanna basically let us know about our listeners? I mean, you told us about the one page compass to download it free, and I will most definitely take my wife to that your site and download that because man, it's gonna help me as well. Man, when it comes to finances, how I look at finances, I'm not a thrifty spender as well. It's a few things I like that like I'm like, I have the money for it, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm really lazy, so I don't really spend money like that.
Join the club. I'm lazy too. I had to make this for lazy people. It's like me.
Yeah, so yeah, I understand. But so do you have anything else?
Well, one more thing. You've all probably heard this saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. I would just tell everybody, don't get discouraged where you're at or what your age is or how you're too young or you're too old or whatever. Just start today. Take baby steps. Download the compass. Just take a look at it because here's the deal. Okay. For 40 years, I didn't have a plan. When you don't have a plan, you're part of someone else's plan. And I helped
Ooh.
make a lot of people rich in my life, but I forgot to work on make myself rich. So please get a plan. Check out the compass, or if you don't like that, check out any plan you want. But make sure it's a plan without conflicts of interest, because that's kind of scary for people. And you don't have to be scared. You can knowledge. Benjamin Franklin says the best investment we can make is in knowledge, and I truly believe that. I know it's true.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for sharing your story. Uh, guys, I want you to watch and stay tuned to what Dave is doing. Stay intrigued, uh, and also check out his page and what he's doing. I'm grateful for his honesty and his simplistic and powerful lessons that he's shared today. So if you found this very interesting and intriguing, please support Dave. And it's never too late to understand your financial um, aspects and build financial freedom and wealth. So thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Peace.